Hey everyone, I am super honored and happy and excited to be here with Kristin Armstrong, the famed author in my Mom's Emotion group of Mile Markers, the 26.2 Most Important Reasons Why Women Run, which has really been our team sort of Bible. And she's the author of many other books, as well as an awesome blog on Runner's World. And so welcome, Kristin. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you and have a chance to get together.
Yes, absolutely. And we just, before we went live with recording, we both talked about the dogs and the kids in our houses that we are reporting live from the trenches of motherhood. So we know that you guys
That's right. So excuse any noises, dogs barking, kids fighting, or teenagers asking for money. Because that's pretty much what's going to happen.
Yep, exactly. Can I have a ride right now, Mom? Right now?
Now. I need $20.
Yeah. And can you take 6 of my friends with me too? Yeah, that's the live from the trenches part. So you just had a really amazing adventure that, I met you through Michael and Jamie Allison. Jamie is the founder of Moms in Motion, and you and Jamie just went on a really amazing adventure that I was able to see some of on Jamie's Facebook feed. So you and 16 friends traveled through France and did 100 miles around Mont Blanc, and I'm going to leave it there for you to pick up.
Well, we started in France, and the circuit that goes around Mont Blanc, the tour of Mont Blanc, goes through France, Italy, and Switzerland in a big circle, and then back to Chamonix in France, where we started and finished. It was just over 100 miles, and it's incredible. We did it. Some people in our group did 4 days. Some people did 6 days, and I was in that group. And but there are people that compete and do the UTMB, which is an ultra race, and they do this in 1 day. And so that was very humbling, thinking like, oh, this is so hard. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's insane. People do this in 1 day. I can't even fathom that.
No.
But I also, that was for who we are and what we just did. To do that in 6 days was also amazing. So I just try to think about it that way. It was definitely an epic adventure. It really was in every way, and it was not at all what I had expected.
I can imagine. I mean, just even getting there, being a mom with a career, we did not a similar in terms of distance, but 29 people from our group in the end of March, we went out to Zion National Park in Utah and did the Zion Half Marathon. And I know just getting there was a big deal, but, prepping like that for an epic trip, training, getting there, that in and of itself is 100-mile run too.
That is so hard to take the time for the physical training part of it, then also just all the logistics that need to be made for travel, as well as everybody that you're leaving behind on the home front. There's logistics there, and just the packing. And I didn't know anything about gear for that. I didn't know much about what does that look like to have a small backpack for 6 days. So it was a lot of learning curve for me, both in the preparation and in the actual execution itself. But for a mom, it really is hard to be able to, first of all, say yes to something of that nature, because it feels like you're battling something inside of is this a selfish thing that I really want to do? I'm going to be gone from my family for 10 days. Doing something that I really want to do that is meaningful to me, but it's also, this is just about me and my friends. This isn't about taking my kids on a trip. This isn't, it's not work related, sort of, for me, sort of, but it's just hard to feel completely settled and peaceful when there's always these conflicting feelings when you're a mom and you're wanting to do something just for yourself.
Right. I agree. As much as I wanted to go on that trip, and I didn't hesitate to go, but there was definitely in the days leading up to it and getting everything ready, there is definitely that hesitation or that pause to say, oh God, this is a lot of work to do this. And,
it's a lot of work.
You know, and not because my husband isn't supportive and the kids were fine and, you know, they were excited for me. But yeah, I think as a mom, we carry that extra bit of taking care of everything and everyone, which is the irony. And so much of what you talk about in your blogs and in your books about how we have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of our families better. But it's hard. It's not easy to do. It's not flipping the switch like it was when we were young and single, where, I mean, we're still young, but when, you know, before we had, I should say pre-kids, when we could just do what we wanted when we wanted for the most part. It's definitely a lot harder. And it's hard to be free when you're doing something like that or feel that freedom.
It is hard to feel that freedom, most of all because I think it's hard for us to let ourselves. And that's a huge challenge. I think now that my kids are teenagers, there's other elements of taking care of myself that also tie into taking care of them and raising them. Mm-hmm. In that, like, I'm trying to teach my kids right now as they're entering the stages pre-launch for college. Like, I really want them to follow their passions, and I want them to listen to their inner voice, and I want them to know themselves, all these things. And so it's like these finer points of parenting. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not doing those things and taking care of those things in my own life, then I really am not as effective of a leader for my children if I'm telling them or encouraging them to do these things, but meanwhile, I'm not listening to that for myself. So it's, in a way, like, I can see that it really does have a positive effect, but it's hard to get to that place where I can let go and kind of, I was joking with a friend, I felt like I popped through like a wormhole, like in a time travel story. Like, I come out of my life and I go overseas, I plop down, I do this thing that I never imagined I could do. And then when it's time to go home, I have to plop back through that same wormhole in time. And now I'm back right in my regular life.
Right.
And not much has changed. Everybody's fine, but I've changed. And so that to me is like, oh man, like, yes, I left that experience over there, but it's inside me now. And it's back here, and I need to try to somehow like integrate this into my regular existence. So it's been like, re-entry is a little challenging too. It's hard to leave, and then it's hard to figure out how to carry that back when I return.
Right. And I think too,
a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think that it's, when you have a life-changing experience like that, I think it is hard to transmit that. I think other than, like you said, there go my dogs, other than doing, other than, like you said, living. And I don't know if perhaps you have 2 daughters, I have 1 daughter. For me, it feels like even more so with daughters, knowing no way to be fearless, responsibly fearless, and doing these things and taking on challenges that I know my mother, when she graduated from high school, she said she had 2 choices if she wanted to go to school, and that was to be a nurse or a teacher, and she became a nurse. Her whole life was taking care of.
My mom became a teacher.
Yeah, right.
That was it.
That's just what they did, and there wasn't a lot of choices. But I feel like I just turned 50 in November. You know, I feel like at our age range, you know, there was never a question that we could go out and do all these things. There was never a question to go to college for whatever we wanted. And so I think that I feel it's even more important, not just for my daughter who's 13 to know that, you know, she already knows going to college or any kind of career, you know, that she can do whatever, that she can travel, that she can have all these options. But I think back to what I think my mother struggled with, and maybe to someday still does, like, it's really okay to take care of yourself while you're raising your children, and that you don't have to devote everything to your children to the point that you don't take care of yourself. And that's a big lesson for me, that racing, and even just participating in a women's fitness group, to me, that is another lesson that I hope that she gets.
Well, the best way to get any lesson, and we know this, is like, our kids can listen to our words all day long. But it's another thing entirely to watch your mom do those things, or watch her try. Watch her
Mm-hmm.
try something, even something that she may or may not be good at, and she doesn't know if she can do this, and she's going outside of her comfort zone. When you watch someone do that, then your words are also important, but it's like to lead by example of, like, I'm trying something. It's okay for you to try something too. And I love that thought of, like, how do you teach someone how to push outside of your comfort zone? And it's hard to do that with just words.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really important for our daughters to see the attempt of something, whether that's the attempt to try something a little bit harder than what we're used to, or is it to try an identity shift, or just continue on a path of growth, or something that is kind of maybe counterintuitive to a lot of the things we're supposed to do, mandated by our roles and responsibilities.
Right.
It's hard to navigate that, and you want to do it in such a way that you know that these other sets of eyes are watching you and watching the choices that we make, and just how do we navigate that, or what does it look like to be 50? Because it looks a lot different today than it did when it was our moms or our grandmothers.
Right.
50 was old when it was my grandma.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It felt very different. But today, we're teaching these lessons of how to grow up, how to grow old, how does this look? And it's a lot more open, like you're saying, than it used to be, which is so exciting.
It really is. And it's you know, and we both have sons, and, you know, I also think that it's good modeling for them, for the women that they will ultimately start a family with, you know, that there is so much more to being a mother than just, which is great, taking care of your children. I mean, I think that's, you know, once we have those, you know, I remember when the first time I heard my son's heartbeat, that was it. You know, I mean, my heart lived somewhere outside of my body, well, inside, but, you know, there was more to it than that. And, you know, and I think that we show ourselves when we can do things for ourselves and yet still manage our responsibilities, which can be very chaotic at times, but that the end result is worth the effort that it takes for the whole family to, you know, for us to pursue these things that take time away from family, but ultimately make the time that we have together that much more enjoyable. You know, when I joined my Mom's Emotion Group as a member, I'm the leader now, but I started as a member. I was very fortunate to be a stay-at-home mom, but I was bored stiff, you know, in terms of adult interaction. And we had just moved into a neighborhood that had a lot of little kids, and a lot of my neighbors have become very close friends, which was great. And that was helpful. But until I really joined a tribe of women who were very dynamic and there were so many things happening, I became fulfilled in a way that, as much as I love my husband and children, there was just no way, because I went back to, you know, the Bonnie I was before I got married and before I had kids. You know, I did my first triathlon, and I remember in my race report writing that was the first thing I had done for Bonnie Piedmont since, you know, in the however many years we'd been married at that point. And, you know, my daughter was 3. So it was 10 years ago. It really it's transformational for me. And then every race and time I've trained, it's even more transformational, just because, like you said, we're redefining what getting older looks like. And I remember thinking before I turned 40, the last thing I wanted to be was an old person. You know, I don't, you know, be blessed to age, but I don't want to be an old person.
Yeah, I don't want to feel stuck. And I think that's like step one to feeling really old, is to just feel just stuck or in a rut. And I think that's a real gift of how fitness and friendships and adventure, they all kind of weave together, reminding us that we are the full spectrum of womanhood, not just a wife, not just a mother, not just I work at so-and-so place. It's all those things put together. It's like this beautiful expression, you know, when people talk about how they love their children. And when you see your child, you don't just see them. Like, I don't just look at Luke now and see him. He is a 17-year-old boy. I look at him and I see him from the moment that I held him all the way. He's every age he's ever been, all the way up to Luke, almost 18.
Mm-hmm.
He's all those ages at once. So I look at him with just completely different eyes than anyone else looking at him. But by the same token, I am every age I've ever been. You know, my parents see me that way, and I see myself that way. I'm the sum of all these years together. And so I don't want to lose or forget to gain those places. Like I'm still that person that I've always been. And so I want to make sure that I'm cultivating and nourishing those parts of me that go along the way. I don't want to just suddenly have empty nest one day and be like, wait a minute, I don't even know what I like anymore. What do I like to do? I don't know. Or where did my friends go? I forgot about that. It's like, no, I don't want to forget about that. I have to live it now.
Right.
And I think that's a big message for women, just to remind us that those things aren't these like selfish or luxuries. These are things that we really need to survive and be everything that we're meant to be. And when we bring that back into our families, to our marriages, or into our parenting, we're bringing something incredible back, something that would definitely be missing if we didn't seek out these friendships or these experiences or these athletic. I mean, it doesn't have to be something athletic, but that's just a conduit that we have in common, you know, a way of finding like-minded friends or whatnot, or just to have a different identity outside of work or parenting or.
Right. Exactly.
It's important.
Yeah, I agree. And you talk so much in your writing about running being spiritual, and I agree with that. And I believe in God, but I know that, you know, I think that even if you're, you know, that's not exactly what you believe in, I feel like running, and I'm more of a multi-sport person. I love triathlons, just because I'm a slow runner, so I can get more done in a triathlon and get more distance covered. But I love how you talk about running being spiritual in so many ways, and how many problems of our own we can solve, or even just be with on a run. You know, was that always that way for you, or was that something that sort of developed as you started running?
I think it was always that way, but the context of how I started running was right when I started going through my divorce. So it was definitely something that was therapeutic and spiritual for me from the get-go. I wasn't someone who was a lifetime runner or somebody who ran in high school or college. So I never really came at it from just the singular angle of sport. To me, it was always everything. It was how I could clear my head. It's how I made time to connect with my friends. It's how I made time to be alone and connect with God, or listen to the voice inside me that already knew the answer. So it's just a way to like untangle myself almost. So it was always all of those things to me. And if anything, that has gotten more intense and more important to me over the past 15 years, probably. 10 to 15 years. Yeah.
And what do you think it is about, you know, obviously we can sit down with our girlfriends and talk over a glass of wine or coffee about whatever we're struggling with, but what do you think it is about a run that, to me, is more effective? It gets deeper. Do you have a theory on what that might be?
Well, I have like one theory that has to do with like relating to men, or like relating to my son. And I know that with him, if we're doing something where we're not looking at each other, but we're just going straight ahead, whether it's walking or driving or whatever it is, it almost kind of like opens up conversation that may not happen otherwise. It's less intimidating or something. You're focused on something else, but you're really present with each other. So I noticed that with men or boys, but then for myself, I think it's kind of a moving meditation almost. It's like you're moving and sweating and breathing, and it's almost like unclogging and dislodging things. And you end up having conversations that you wouldn't have over coffee, that you wouldn't have over wine. It's not the same as going to lunch. It's deeper than that. And the longer that you've been running or training with someone, whatever your sport is, it's almost like you can quickly pop through to that place of just shedding the superficial and going deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an easy access, because if that's how you are with yourself when you're running, and then you cultivate that with a group of people or even one person, it's such a gift to be able to be in that place. Sometimes it's very vulnerable. You're working really hard. You're pushing up a hill. You're training. Maybe you're having a hard day out there, but you're persevering together,
mm-hmm.
and you're showing up for each other. It takes a relationship, and it adds a layer of intimacy that I think is really hard to find in our society right now, in our
mm-hmm.
rushed routines. Like a quick stop at Starbucks is not the same as, okay, I'll see you at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see you raw, sleepy, no makeup, not a lot of layers and pretense
mm-hmm.
built up. And there's not a lot of hiding behind attire, or I don't know, it's just stripped down version of, we're just going to connect.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think
that's an incredible thing.
It really is. It's such a gift. And I think that sometimes too, when I've been struggling with something and I've gone out for a run or a walk with friends, if I'm feeling stuck, but if I'm running and having that conversation about whatever is difficult, I'm accomplishing something, and it's metaphorical and it's real. I may not solve the problem that I'm struggling with, but like you talked about, I don't feel stuck because the metaphorical and the spiritual moving of things, the unclogging is really, I think sometimes gives us perspective instead of being focused, right down on something. And like you said, also being vulnerable and not having, not every run is a good run. Some people make it look like that, but that's not typically, that's not always the case. And so even in those difficult runs, when you can be there for me and I can be there for you and get you through it, it does bring so much more to the relationship, and creates friendships where maybe there wasn't one before. You run with somebody that you didn't know, and next thing you know, you've talked about things you might not have talked about. You ever would have thought you would have talked about with that person.
People.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Or it's maybe someone that you wouldn't have even in normal social circles, you may not have unearthed each other, because you might just be socially in different directions or different
mm-hmm.
circles, but then you come together over this shared joy,
mm-hmm.
and you have something that has a deeper quality to the intimacy than you have when you're just having short conversations here and there with women and in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And we also talk a lot about, when someone's really working through something, sometimes you're not going to get a solution, like you're saying, on a run,
mm-hmm.
but sometimes you can kind of just move to a place of like, you can accept where you are right now,
mm-hmm.
even if that's just the uncertainty of it.
Right.
That's an awesome element of the metaphor of running or training. And then there's also the part of the shared burden. If someone is really grappling with something, and you can feel the weight on them, there's the heaviness that they're carrying when they're trying to run or ride their bike or swim, whatever they're doing, you
mm-hmm.
can feel it over time when you know someone a little better. And the notion of being able to share a part of that burden, that is such a beautiful example to me. Like you can listen and take on some of that for them and run with it
mm-hmm.
for them for a while and ease their burden.
Yeah, I agree. We have some real life examples of that in your chapter in Mile Markers about healing, that we run when we can't fix something, but we run to hold those people in our hearts, and it helps us to try to solve things. We lost one member 5 years ago on the 29th of July she was hit by two intoxicated drivers while she was on her bike. And then 6 months later, we lost another member to a suicide that nobody saw. We didn't have any indication that she was struggling that much. And to lose two members in such close proximity, I can't tell you how much having this group of women who were poised and ready to go, to do something. And you write in that same chapter how you want to be, even if something's not wrong with you, you want to be ready to help carry the burden for somebody else. And I can so relate to that, because I always feel like, our friendships and relationships are deposits we make in the bank of life, for lack of a better word. And that when something difficult happens, beautiful, we draw back on those relationships when we need it. And I think that in life that's great, but then when you have a group of, in our case, women who run together and have that, like that brought us together. But then what happens beyond that is really exponential in terms of the support, and especially in a situation like we lost our friend Heather to a homicide, on a Sunday morning. And how do you reconcile that? We still can't, but we created a foundation in her honor. We raise money to help other people in crisis, and it doesn't take away the pain, but it smooths away some of the rough edges, but it's all centered again around running. And, and being able to live with the things that you can't explain and don't ever really get better, but you learn to accommodate them. And so I don't really have a moral other than
yes, you do, because it's like dividing the sorrows and multiplying the joy. It's like anything that's shared is authenticated in the sharing. So you don't have to deal with that alone. You're in a tribe. And that's how women were, I think, meant to function since the beginning, when we actually did live in little tribes and helped each other take care of children and food and all these things. We still do that today. We still have that need for a tribe, but it can get lost because we're all so busy, and we're just really lucky if we have a place where we can find a way to create that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a special thing that
can be that.
Absolutely. And I think women can do that much more so than men. My husband always says, if it wasn't for me being a part of Moms in Motion, he wouldn't have some of the friends that he has. And he ran his first marathon at age 50. And, that
is awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And he, it changed, I think when we have that tribe, it changes things for our families in a positive way. From the day-to-day things, but also again for that, when we need the support of people for something that's really difficult, it's there to draw on. And then I think the metaphor too of, the actuality and the metaphor of, we build physical endurance, but I think that physical endurance obviously creates a mental endurance for the situations that are just, not every situation resolves in short order. And a lot of them don't. Even parenting doesn't resolve in short order.
There's no resolution. It's endless, like laundry and everything else.
Yeah.
We need to endure.
I have a neighbor that said
it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. Like it's the building of grit.
Yeah.
Like I know that when it comes down to it, I know that I'm not going to quit. And I know that about certain other people as well. And so I know that if they're beside me, they won't quit. So even if I'm tempted, they'll be like, just remember who we are. We don't quit. Oh yeah, that's right. We don't quit.
Right. Yep. You've got this,
quit.
I can't tell you how many times someone's like, you've got this. I remember running towards a finish line for a half marathon, and two girls that had finished ahead of me, Wendy and Patty, they came out and they were running us in, and I could see the finish line, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. They're like, really? Let's go. Get your fanny going, get those legs going. You got this, you need that. You need that slap in the buns and in the rear end every now and then to say, yeah, you got this. Because, I think the other thing, and you talk a lot about this too in your writing, is that it's, it's not just the, oh, I love you, you're so amazing. It's like, get your fanny moving, get to that finish line, or get this workout done, because you need to do this for yourself. And that is also something that's special, because I think sometimes in our, our culture can be PC, and we don't want anyone to feel struggle or strain or stress, yet we need to get pushed, to do things that may be difficult, but very much what we need to do. And I think that running friends really get that.
Oh, we draw upon that collective belief in one another. I've been at like in the mile 20s of a marathon and been like calf cramping and just done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to finish, but I could see that I'm like, I just want to walk. Like I'm depleted and done and my calves hurt. And my best friend and wingman, her name's Paige. She's my training partner for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
She looked at me, and she can look at me. She has earned the right to look at me and to see me and say whatever the heck she needs to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one specific time she looked right at me and she has these intense blue eyes. And I was thinking that she was going to say something sweet and inspiring to me, or like, okay, come on, I'll walk with you if it hurts. And she looked at me and she goes, pull it together. She's like, let's finish this thing.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, I felt her strength and I felt just a little bit of an ass kick in there. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? If you think I can do this, then you're probably right. I probably
Mm-hmm.
can.
Yeah.
But I was faltering and I needed her strength to remind me that, hey, this is what we trained for.
Mm-hmm.
Those miles back there that were easy, yeah, that's great. But this right here, this is what we trained for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're doing. So get over here and be with me right now. Show
Mm-hmm.
up. And when someone you love that much tells you to show up, you show up.
Right.
It like overrides whatever was wimpy in a moment prior. Like,
right.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Like, you need me too.
Right.
I need to pull it together.
It's the most perfect
and
form
then we do.
Right. It's the most perfect form of peer pressure. You know, it really is for our best. And it shows us, I mean, so often I remember when I did a half iron in 2009, and I was being coached by a girl that I went to high school with and who had gone on to, she'd gone to college, then she joined the Army, and she got on, and at almost 40 years old, she got onto the Army's triathlon team for the Olympics. And so she spent Heidi Grimm.
Incredible.
Yeah, an amazing woman. And so she spent, I can't remember if they do everything in like 3 years. In about a year and a half, she had to compete in enough triathlons to get enough points to qualify for the team. And I know that's a very inarticulate explanation, but that's what that was the basic gist of it. And she almost made it. She almost made the U.S. Olympic team for the Army, or, through her participation in the Army's triathlon team. And she said, no matter what was happening to her, her mind, her body obviously was, she trained her body, but it was always her mind, because if she felt like giving up and someone told her that her father was being held hostage, or her mother, was sick and needed her immediately, she would have found the energy to keep going. And I remember that, so many times, like she said, if someone was holding your kid hostage, what would you do? I'm like, I would sprint. She's like, well, then get going, get there, and just that our minds, so often will be what lets us down, not really our body. Our body can endure so much more, then our minds will sometimes let it, and that was a powerful lesson too. And she told me that on numerous occasions, because I'm a slow athlete. I'm not, I've never been fast, but I always call myself a steady Eddie. And there's a lot to be learned from all those hours out on a race course, especially in a half Ironman. And, the humility that comes from being one of the last ones out there, and accepting the praise when I finished. And it was, those are all things that really make you put your big girl pants on.
No doubt. And the realization that you can do more than you think you can do, and you are more than you think you are. Like, those things are revealed in those moments where it's like, wait a minute, I have more than I thought.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible thing to know, and you file it away after that, and you can use it when you're in another situation that has to do with maybe love or just a rough parenting moment or something, and you're like, okay, I have more than I think I have, so I'm just going to regroup and hang in there.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible thing to know, that you're not going to fold.
It is. And exactly. Knowing that there's that reservoir of strength within us that, doesn't always feel like it's there, but that if we can summon it, it does take us much farther than we ever thought we could go. That is a blessing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you, any big race plans coming up as you come off of your epic adventure?
I feel like I thought that I would just feel this sense of like relief. Okay, that's done. I'm just going to rest and do nothing, and that feels good. But instead, it was odd when I came home. My body felt great. I didn't feel overworked. I just felt inspired and motivated. And so I'm in a kind of a searching place right now, trying to figure out, like, I want some other adventure, and I don't know what that will look like. So that's kind of brewing. And then Paige, my wingman, she turned 50 last year, and she wanted to do Boston Marathon, which we did in April, which was awesome. But she had thank you. And she had a really rough race. It was not her day. And she's an amazing runner. So she felt like, I think, frustrated by that experience. So I think she wants a do-over. Not necessarily Boston, but just she wants to have a race in her 50s where she feels great. So that sounds fun to me. I think that that's always a great goal to think of. Like, I want to do a marathon and I want to feel good. Either feel good while I'm doing it, or I want to feel good afterwards. And so I think she wants some redemption. And so if she wants a wingman for that, I'll be all in, whatever that is. That will be fun. And then I want something that's kind of more like adventure-ish on trails or something like that. I got to figure that out. Yeah. That'll come to me.
Yeah. And that's the fun stuff. That's really that's the fun stuff.
That's really fun.
Our group just a couple days ago. So I told you we did Zion half marathon in March. And then we have one girl in our group, Chris, she is the travel coordinator extraordinaire. I mean, and it's not even her job. Like, she's just one of those people. I'm a good organizer. Yeah. But this girl, she takes organizing 30 women, and we have about 90 people in our group, but it averages about 30 people that are able to go on the trip. So she just announced that our next trip is Martha's Vineyard next May there's the marathon and a half marathon. And so that's our next
trip. That sounds fun.
Yes. Maybe you and Paige could do that.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I should bring that up to her, because what could be prettier?
Oh yeah. It's in May. It's the weekend after Mother's Day. So yeah, that'll be beautiful. But that's awesome. Something that's really fun. So we're starting the planning for that. And there's nothing better than figuring out next adventures. And when I signed up to do the Zion, I was still 49. And that was, whether I ran it or not, I just knew I was going out there to experience that with the girls and see part of the country that I had never seen before. And it was, it was not so much in terms of the physical endurance, but just experiencing that with my friends was really, I came home different too, because I had never seen such big skies and such vast expanses. I live in upstate New York, so it's very lush and hilly and lots of water, and it was a completely different place. So, but anyway, back to creating those adventures and going on them and embracing them really is the best part, I think, of having these relationships.
It's incredible. It's fun. It reminds us to play, because we can get pretty serious and in our routines. And it's just really great to remember, like, you know what? We all get to go play. We're not too old for that. We need to do that. So let's do that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it has been an honor and a blessing and a joy to speak with you.
Same, back at you.
Oh,
fun.
Thank you.
Love to do it again.
Yes, I would love to. And so I hope you have now your kids start school pretty soon. You're in Texas.
Yep. We're starting in a couple weeks, and I'm in graduate school right now, so my classes will start too. So all of us are summer break is almost over.
Oh, we're in
football, cross country, everything is started again.
Oh boy, see, we have another month. Our kids don't start till September. So yeah, we're lucky. Yeah, but they start school, they end school a lot later. But yeah, it is. So I hope you have a great rest of the summer. What are you taking in grad school?
I'm studying to get a master's in counseling.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, it's really fun.
You will be great at that.
Yes.
You are very easy to talk to.
Thank you. Thank you. As are you.
Thank you very much. I used to be a counselor in my previous life, so.
See, there you go.
Yep. Yeah. It's a great, it's, being able to listen and then be able to communicate with people is definitely a blessing. Well, that is terrific. Well, I wish you all the best in that. And I hope that we talk again soon, and keep Martha's Vineyard. Maybe if that's Paige's, that's her destination race, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be so fun.
We would have fun for sure.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, Kristin. Have a great rest of the day.
Yes. You too. Take care.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.